What's up, everybody? Late Night Keefe here, GhostCultMan.com, coming at you with another live stream. I have had a crazy day. I think the garbage is about to get picked up outside my building like clockwork, so hopefully that won't be too distracting as you're about to hear the machinery of San Francisking behind me or in front of me. But I wanted to come on and do a live stream. I've been struggling a little bit with my mental health, and I wanted to come on and do a few live streams this week. There's some really cool stuff to talk about. If you don't watch this live, maybe you can watch this on the replay or on our podcast. These shows are always podcasts at the end of the day. We do have a few people watching on YouTube. I appreciate you. It is late at night on the West Coast, which means it's late or early everywhere else in the world right now. But I wanted to come on to talk about the brand new Iron Maiden documentary, Burning Ambition. I thought it was really well done. I saw it about a week and a half ago, and I realized like not many people have had the chance to see it yet. So I wanted to make sure that I got to see it and bring you my real review right before everybody else. Mute myself for a minute while this commotion goes on outside the window. Yeah, meant to get it done by now. That's how it goes, folks. That's how it goes. But if you're watching this live, I appreciate you. If you're here late at night, usually TikTok's always got some people on. YouTube's always got some people on late. Brandon Machado, what up? What up? Some people are on TikTok at this hour, and my wonderful, amazing, gorgeous, beautiful fiance is here. Way past her bedtime, but thank you, babe. I'll see you in about a day and a half. But I wanted to come on. Like I said, I wasn't feeling too well today. And I just wanted to make sure I got a couple of streams in this week. So the goal is I have a whole bunch of doctor's appointments tomorrow just for some housekeeping. And then I'm going to Ichabod Bain is also here. I have some doctor's appointments. I'm going to go see the Blood Incantation All Gates Open documentary experience. And then I'm going to come home and probably eat dinner and then maybe do another stream. And there's some pretty banger albums coming out this week. I might want to do a review of at least one of them. But let's just talk quickly about Iron Maiden and the Burning Ambition documentary. Before I do that, a little bit of housekeeping. Recently, I did a live stream on Jason Newsted's recent round of interviews. Still hey, Michael Licious is here, and Buddha is my live. I'm still a bucket list for me for Jason Newsted. I would love to get a chat with him, but he's been doing some phenomenal interview stuff lately. I'm really proud of him for speaking his truth always. Also, this week, we had a brand new interview on our YouTube and podcast with King Ultra Mega, including Bran Dollar of Mastodon, and of course, the founder of King Ultra Mega and Metal Allegiance, Mark Mengi, who we always have a good rapport. But Bran, just recently, King Ultra Mega dropped their cover of Dead Wishes. It was just Cornell's death anniversary, if you will. So a really deep emotional interview. I'm really proud of this one. I'm really honored to get a chance to talk to Bron. And I hope eventually to talk to Mastodon someday formally. But I've hung out with the big guys. I've hung out with all the guys. And I actually saw Mastodon before they were famous. GG Fan is here. What up, what up? Zozia Zazambi is here. iZombie is here. Nami. Queen Lovey. Jizz 01, I think, also on the gram. So that interview came up, and then in the morning, what's up, boo? In the morning, our new interview with Sun Don't Shine is coming out. Now, we've had a lot of interviews with the guys from Sun Don't Shine, but this is really a first. Their debut album, full-length album, is out now, Birth to Death, and I talked to Kenny Hickey. You know him from Typo Negative. Q is here. What's up, Q? And Todd Strange, who I've met a bunch of times but never got to do an interview with. So I was really excited to interview Kenny and Todd. And if you're in, not only should you be listening to Sun Don't Shine, because one of the best records this year so far, but Kenny dropped some exclusive Typo Negative news on us that you will not want to miss. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets picked up by other outlets. I'm always humbled and appreciative if Blabbermouth or Loudwire or somebody shouts us out or, shares our thing. But this is one If you love typo, this is one you need to check out. But you should be checking out already. You should be checking out the. You should always be checking out the Sun Don't Shine album. So that's coming up in a few hours. And then just my other podcast, we're wrapping up our series on AC/DC. I love this cover of Nick as Angus from the Power Age album. And we have our final episode. That's out now. And our final episode on AC/DC is going to run on Friday. Super stoked in general. And then we're moving on to a new series about the first 4 albums of Deicide. I can't do it as good as Nick, the Deicide voice, but just saw them recently and they were phenomenal. All right, there's our tip menu. As always, you know, we have some money that comes in from advertising, but we're always appreciative of tips. If you're feeling tipsy, not my real ones and everydayers and my fiance, but everybody else, if you feel like supporting us, we appreciate it. Every bit of money we make goes back into Ghost Cult. You can show your general support with $3. You can always buy us a coffee on Ko-fi for $6. You could become a real one. Hey, LA Sparky, what's up? And thanks for all the hearts and stuff. And also, Prissy is here. Appreciate you for following us. At the end of these pods and these videos, and live streams, I will come back on and follow you all wherever you followed us. Instagram. But check out our website at ghostcultmag.com. In case you don't know who we are and this is your first time here, Ghost Cult is your 24/7 news source for rock and metal news. We have a staff of around the world. We cover metal festivals and concerts every week. And we review albums, about 400, 500, 600 a year sometimes. And we have interviews like Mastodon, Alice in Chains, recently Napalm Death, a bunch coming up soon. So check us out and give us some love and support. We appreciate you. And again, I will rate your song if you send it to us. And also, I do music business consulting. I've been working in the music industry for many years. I had bands for 20 years, and I have led and taught classes on releasing albums and EPs and managing your social media presence for bands and labels. So check it out. And you can tip us at all the things: Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal, Venmo, whatever. It's all good. But anyway, let's talk about Maiden. And let's talk about Burning Ambition. So my wonderful fiance and I went to the movies here in San Francisco at the Metreon AMC. There were Thursday and Saturday showings. And I will tell you, the Thursday showings were all sold out, completely sold out. And I heard that that was the case in a lot of other cities. And then for the Saturday show, our theater wasn't completely full, but it certainly had a nice little crowd. And they were very vocal and enjoyed the movie, as you would expect metalheads to do. Whenever there's one of these things, like Fathom Events showing a Metallica concert, or I remember going to the movie theater on the Lower East Side of New York City to see Day of the Guasano when Slipknot did their big Mexican concert film. That was insane. I saw the Black Sabbath final concert back from 2013 video there, waiting to hear news about the Back to the Beginning. I think it's a rights thing. Kratos 6669996 is here. What's up? Miss Parsley is here. Jimenez is here. Thanks for being here. I appreciate everybody for showing up and showing love. We had a nice little crowd for this hour of the night. Even folks watching on Facebook, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. It's nice to see people here. So Iron Maiden, right? We saw the doc. We had spent some time in the city. We got a great lunch. And oh my God, that Spanish bread. Ugh, I may not recover from that experience. But anyway, went to City Lights Books, as you do in San Francisco. We were having a lovely weekend in town, and we went to see Burning Ambition. And I'll talk a little bit in a few about how the band is trying to actually distance themselves from the documentary, but them and their management authorized and paid for this documentary to be made. So it's weird to see them separate themselves from it. Malcolm Venville is the director, and it was written by David Teague. And I think when you're doing a documentary, the writer is also sort of a forecaster, if you will, about like how the films are made. But it was a pretty incredible overall experience. I'll start there. It told the whole history of the band and vis-a-vis their impact on the world. Iron Maiden if you wanted to say that Iron Maiden is the greatest metal band ever, most people wouldn't fight you. Some people will say Black Sabbath. Some folks will say Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer. Maiden surely on the Mount Rushmore of metal bands. They did not pay less attention to any era of the band, despite the fact that the main lineup of the band was together for 45 years, the most notable lineup, if you will. And I love that they told the story from the very beginning, not quite in the early childhood detail that the Led Zeppelin documentary did, Becoming Led Zeppelin, but enough of, where Iron Maiden comes from, how they formed, what drove them to make the music they make. And really, it kind of begins and ends, as always, with Steve Harris. Steve founded the band in 1975. This year is, 1976. Last year was the 50th anniversary of Iron Maiden. It's now into this year. They're touring on the Run for Your Lives 50th anniversary tour. It was always Steve's vision, ultimately, and it still is Steve's vision. He's written most of their songs, got the most writing credits in the band. He's written quite a good deal of their lyrics, the direction of the music. And then as time has gone on, other, Adrian Smith, Dave Murray, Bruce Dickinson, other people have had a hand in the writing. But it's really mostly Steve. And you can kind of see Steve's kind of driven direction is what led the band to be uncompromising and so successful, and why they are so big beyond their music. Iron Maiden is a movement. Iron Maiden is a vibe. Iron Maiden is a phenomenon. And people who know about Iron Maiden just know Eddie, the head, the zombie mascot of the band. They just know Iron Maiden. They know them. The film has a bunch of people talking about the history of the band, not just the band members themselves. A lot of stuff from Rod Smallwood, their manager, all these years. Actor Javier Bardem, who seems to show up everywhere lately, is a humongous metalhead and loves Iron Maiden. Lars Ulrich was in there. I think people would be surprised at how glowingly he talked about the band. Metallica and Maiden have had rivalries forever, but there's a lot of mutual respect there. Chuck D talked about how he became aware of Iron Maiden and how important they were to him. Just their artwork and Derek Riggs's artwork, as just a huge fan of their shirts, and how he became conscious of them as an important force in music when he was just getting into early hip hop and really just kind of becoming a professional artist himself. And by the way, Chuck D is kind of has an art career. He has an art book out now of all his sketches from around the world. It's what he does in his spare time. He's got a history of hip hop out. So, very fun to see Chuck pop up in the Iron Maiden documentary. And they talk about the early days of the band and, their early members and their earliest, kind of formations. And there's a lot of love talked about Paul Di'Anno, who passed away a year ago. It just passed the 1-year anniversary of Paul passing. And, he's really important to the story of Iron Maiden. There is no Iron Maiden with Dickinson without Paul. And I know that there's like there's some fans that only love the Paul stuff, believe it or not, still. And there's people who think that Maiden just became so much bigger and better with Bruce because he was so bombastic and his range was incredible as a heavy metal singer. But Paul, when we did Iron Maiden on an earlier edition of the other podcast I have, the Glacially Musical Podcast, we were astounded at Paul's really range and talent. Those first few albums, he took a lot of vocal chances. He was really at a time when traditional hard rock, especially classic rock and progressive rock, which Iron Maiden loves, but they dabbled in prog, but much later. When all the punk bands came along, Paul was kind of a punk. He was one of them, or at least he looked very punky with his studs and his leather and his tude. And he was really essential for Iron Maiden crossing over and not being like, fuck these guys, these fogies, these old guard people. They were welcomed as the new guard and came along right behind Judas Priest, kind of right around the first Maiden album. Priest is becoming their full form of a real classic heavy metal band. The new wave of British heavy metal is coined in a magazine article in 1978, coincidentally, when Maiden comes around. And, the film spends a lot of time on the early days of the band and the early lineup and the different drummers and guitarists who came through. But those first two Maiden records, the self-titled Iron Maiden album and Killers, are just phenomenal. And I know that maybe there are experts who will say that Maiden's records are not even, they're uneven, like a few absolute bangers, a couple of other good songs, and some weak ones. That's most bands of that era. Most bands are, as Nick Cameron of Glacial Musical would say, 30, 30, 30. But I think it's important to note that Maiden really was one of the first true heavy metal bands. They made heavy metal music for heavy metal fans, and they really helped start a movement. Sabbath really did not embrace being metal until later, even though they were clearly metal. There are a lot of bands that are almost metal. There are a lot of songs that are metal-ish in the history of hard rock and classic rock, but they're not metal bands until Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, and Iron Maiden. And Maiden is absolutely in that holy trinity, especially before the American bands take hold and thrash metal becomes a thing. So then they go into the Bruce era. They get Bruce. They get the drummer from Samson, Les Binks, who then comes in, and then Bruce comes in. And, it really opens up the range of the bands. And the run of albums that Iron Maiden has, including Paul's albums, those first 7 or 8 Iron Maiden albums are tremendous. And they had a bunch of singles that are not album songs, like Twilight Zone and things like that, that were humongous before they were on albums or compilations or whatever, Aces High, things like that, that became singles. The band was wildly successful and humongous right out of the gate. Started in small clubs. People maybe weren't aware, and then they just became a global phenomenon over time. And obviously with Bruce, they grew and grew. Number of the Beast, Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, Peace of Mind. These are iconic albums. Some of their later stuff, that Live After Death is one of the greatest live albums of the 80s. It's a banger. I'm a big fan. I still like Fear of the Dark, which was the last album with Bruce. And, it was kind of warts and all, the good and the bad. Kind of the Bruce versus Steve, and Adrian and Dave versus Bruce and Steve. And, Nico comes in, and he's also so physical. And, Les is a great drummer, but, Nico is so physical as a drummer. He really put them over the top. He was able to support that over the top music with his playing ability, which, you got to show respect, ultimate respect to. And then they talk about the fallout, like the band was starting to drift apart. And Bruce kind of told them at like halfway through a tour in 92 or 3, he was quitting. I'm doing a solo album and I'm leaving the band. And, they were angry and they were mad. And, it really put a strain on things with Steve. And then they talked a lot about the Blaze era, and Blaze is interviewed, and he was like, I'm grateful for the chance to be in Maiden. Most of the fans embraced me. Some of them didn't. It's not Blaze's fault entirely that the material was, diminishing and not as up to the classic material, although some of that stuff is still great. And the Klansman is still played a lot on tours. And Blaze, took it right in the face from fans. There was a lot of people mad. And Bruce took it in the fan. I think Bruce didn't think maybe clearly like how big a star he thought he was versus how good his solo albums are. I think those first few Bruce solo albums are terrific. Yo, Tito, what's up? Good to see you, brother. I'm here talking about the Iron Maiden documentary. Late at night on the West Coast. You are up early on the East Coast. So, yeah, man, really tremendous job. They gave a lot of respect to Blaze. And then there was kind of hey, we're not doing so great. We went from doing arenas to theaters to clubs again. And, Bruce wasn't doing as well. Even though he did some tremendous stuff. I highly recommend you check out the Bruce Dickinson documentary where he went to Bosnia-Herzegovina and played a concert in a war zone. I mean, it'd be the equivalent of going to Gaza right now and putting on a concert. And he put himself in the lion's mouth. They were at risk of getting killed constantly, and they put on a tremendous show. That documentary is really great. I saw that. Working a graveyard shift. Got you, brother. That was really great a couple of years ago. I think I want to say maybe right around the pandemic that movie came out. But Bruce comes back in, and basically it's been 25, 26 years, 27 years since Bruce came back in. Fun fact, my band, Grunt, was featured in the Metal Maniacs issue where they announced Bruce's return to the band. There was really no social media, barely any social media back then, just YouTube and websites. And so our band was featured, my demo and our was reviewed, and we were featured at the back pages of Metal Maniacs with Bruce Dickinson on the cover. I think I still have a copy somewhere. If not, I need to pick one up because I'm in it. In my very mean looking Carl Hart hoodie days. But anyway, then they take us up through the last few years. I'll talk about Nico stepping down and Simon Dawson coming in, which we did a whole live stream about last year when that got announced. The band has tried to put some distance between them and the documentary, which to me is confusing because, okay, people gave, you gave the director the final edit, they're going to put out what they saw and heard and the story that was told to them, they're going to retell. And so if you don't have the final edit and cut on the film, it's going to come out unbiased, which I think is the best. That's actually documentary film is about telling the truth and telling an independent idea, not some, whitewashed storytelling. So I thought it was really cool that it was warts and all, and that Bruce and Steve were mad at each other, and they had to all get in the room and get on a call and be like, what do you think about Bruce coming back in? Well, it took a little thawing out of the freeze of the two of them to make it work. And I guess they don't like, I couldn't think of what else they wouldn't want told. And that would be it. The rift between the band, how it split, how they came back. Maybe they didn't want that out there, but to me, that's what makes it great. It's one of the things that makes it great. I know that Dennis Stratton, one of the first Iron Maiden guitar players who was on the debut Iron Maiden album before he left, complained that there's not enough mentions of him. Dude, you're on one album. I appreciate that he's on that first album, but he's not essential to the story of Iron Maiden and being in it. Steve and Rod Smallwood both were like, I don't know how we feel about this, but I thought it was great. I thought it was really well done. I think when it finally comes to on demand, fans should go see this. If you love Iron Maiden, if you love metal, you definitely want to see this. Hey, Suzanne, what's up? I see you're there, maybe watching too on Facebook. Here's a great picture of Bruce on the last Iron Maiden tour a year and a half ago by Omar. They are, Nico stepped down. He had the stroke. He really we didn't know anything about it until after he had come through it, but he really almost lost his ability to play drums. Tito knows. Tito's a drummer. How hard it would be to have like a debilitating stroke, and drumming is so physical and taxing, and you need your whole body and your whole essence to play drums. Even if you're in a doom band, it's so much work physically to play drums. And he had to learn how to re-drum, and maybe felt like on the last tour that he played on, he was sort of just barely covering the parts and he wasn't as good anymore. I saw Maiden a couple of years ago, and I didn't think they were at all slipping, but maybe like he played enough that you didn't notice. I know people, now we have the internet, you can rewatch videos over and over about how good or not good Lars is, whatever. We don't suffer any Lars slander here at Ghost Coat Man, not to me, not other than what he deserves, not extra slander. But that was tough, and they moved on with Simon Dawson from Bruce's solo band at times, and they've been apparently very solid and good. They're on this Run for Your Lives tour around the world. They're coming to the States this summer and fall with Megadeth and Anthrax on certain dates for Anthrax, but Megadeth on every date. I'd love to get to one of these shows. I don't know how much longer we're going to have Iron Maiden. They have an Iron Maiden kind of festival now, like a convention that's going to take place every year in England, and maybe they're going to play that convention, and eventually I could see them dropping down and just doing that. Nico has a book coming out. I thought the Bruce book was very good. Adrian Smith's book was not good. despite what a personable and great person he is, and a great guitar player and a great performer, I thought his book was pretty lame. Nico's book, which is going to be deeply personal and talk about a lot about his stroke. Hello, boys and girls, which he used to say from the stage at the end of every show when he threw out his wristbands and his jock and stuff, which is like, imagine if you get hit in the face with his sweaty ball jock strap thing. But that's coming out in October. So I'm very looking, one of the most anticipated rock memoirs to come out this year, along with Kim Thiel of Soundgarden. And, Nico is still playing. He has an Iron Maiden cover band, Titanium Tart. He's got his ribs place in Florida. I love Iron Maiden, and I love Nico. I don't know if I want to go to Florida just to get ribs, but Tito, maybe you can help me out with that. Tell me if you've ever been there. But yeah, man, I highly recommend seeing this thing. It's got a great cast. A lot of people tell the story of Maiden. I don't think it's like washed over. I think it's pretty great. IMDb has this technically at 7.6 out of 19 reviews, just in case you care about such things. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it's 83 on the tomato meter and 95% on the popcorn meter. 12 reviews on the tomato meter, which I think is like professional reviewers, and 95% of fans. So that's 250 plus verified ratings. Tremendous job of putting 50 years of Iron Maiden love and lore into a documentary. And again, I got the opportunity to see it, so I wanted to share it with all of you. Just in case, it has not been yet announced for streaming and on demand and for purchase. I'm sure it will be. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing this or you don't care about band biographies. Let me know what other stuff you'd like me to review and share with you. I'm back tomorrow night with another live stream, probably an album review of an album coming out this Friday, and a pretty notable one for metal. And of course, every Thursday I do my live stream, the Weekly Ritual, the Rock and Metal News Show. Once again, if you're here for the first time and you like what you saw, like and subscribe. If not, that's cool. Drop some comments, what you don't like. I read them all. I take them all in, and I make notes. That's it for me. Y'all have a good day. I will be back later today, I guess, in about 16, 17 hours, 18 hours. Peace. Have a good night. Up the irons forever. Maiden. Have a good one. Good night.